Welcome to the Painter's Dialectic Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Green, an artist and art educator living in New York City. And today we are discussing a concept I made up called the householder artist. So we'll explore the artistic past of the householder artist. This is someone who is not engaged in the art market. What value is there for having a home art practice? How can it affect our life? I will give a presentation on this topic and do a guided meditation and a guided art practice. All right, welcome everyone to this month's group event. The topic today is kind of a term I've come up with. It's called a householder artist. So we'll be explaining that idea today. For those who don't know me, I'm Josh Green. I'm an artist and art educator in New York City. I received my MFA from the Alfred Dusseldorf Painting Program, and I'm certified to teach in the various spiritual traditions I mentioned through Tibet House and the Institute for Hermetic Studies. At artistaaron.com, there is a variety of courses that you can take to improve your drawing abilities, and there's more coming. I'm finishing up a painting course now. Here is the student gallery. For those who've done the coursework with me, I try to keep a high standard for my students. And if you feel like donating, if you're in the holiday spirit, nothing better than helping to support the Institute for Hermetic Studies collection. So we're actually establishing a whole wing in the Scranton University Library of esoteric books. Spirituality as in a practical sense, what it's experientially like, cross cultures, and we have a lot of rare books that need to be taken care of that will be donated, and I think we've reached 1,000 books into the library so far, and it's doing really well. So you can make a Christmas donation to that through the link in the email or the link in the episode description. So the schedule for today is maybe I'll talk about the philosophical ground for about 20 minutes. We'll do a meditation, and then we'll go into a period of art making, and then we'll open up to a group dialogue and dedication. So let's jump into the main idea, a householder artist. So a householder artist is an artist who approaches their creative practice with seriousness, with discipline and sincerity, without identifying as a professional or pursuing an art career. So I've taken the word householder from Buddhism. That's a Buddhist who walks a genuine spiritual path while living an ordinary and worldly life. So a householder artist is committed to art as a path of cultivation rather than a profession. But they are not hobbyists. They're not dabbling occasionally, nor are they bound to the pressures of the art market, academia, or institutional validation. Instead, a householder artist engages art as a meaningful, transformative practice integrated into daily life. Their studio may be a corner of their apartment. Their time may be limited, but their intention and devotion are real. So, you've probably heard of an outsider artist, right? Or art brute. These are artists who did not receive any art training, which is, some of the artists I have here, but a householder artist can get training, you know. They are seriously pursuing it, but I just wanted to make this idea of someone who's a serious artist without the selling part. You don't have to have that. And none of these artists that I'm going to present today were selling. Um, but art for them was a genuine path. And you'll see that a lot of them are not very skilled, but they achieved a high level of art, a high level of creativity, and their works are culturally significant. They were discovered later in their life, and all the artists I'm presenting are culturally relevant and influence culture in some way. A householder artist is not a hobbyist. Hobbyists turn to art for comfort, for leisure, for entertainment. Uh, they remain fully inside of what I call a comfort-seeking mindset. The typical person, the normal person, um, wants to achieve comfort, wants to achieve stability, predictability, and safety. In contrast, the householder artist feels that they feel called to something deeper, almost a quiet monasticism, willing to renounce security, even while maintaining jobs and relationships and responsibilities. They do not need to become a professional artist or enter the art world. Yet their commitment is real. They're not stuck in a comfort zone. So you grow by getting out of a comfort zone, right? You grow when you bring elements of uncertainty in your life, some intensity, and these conflicts, that friction allows for personal transformation, right? So this is someone doing it in small doses. Of course, you need comfort. Of course, you need security and stability to some degree. But if that's your primary goal, then you can stagnate as a person. If you go too far to the other extreme where you're really, taking big risk, that can also hold you back. Your life may be too unstable for you to grow. You might end up in a state of panic or mental illness, because it's too intense. So it does need a balance, but this is someone who's willing to keep that a little bit of friction in their life in order to grow. So I want to introduce some artists who I think are very important, who aren't commonly referenced, who are not in the art history books, who didn't get training or did not have access to technical training, but achieved a high level of art, and their art was culturally significant. So this is Bill Traylor. So Bill Traylor was born in 1853. He was a self-taught American-born artist. He was born into slavery on a cotton plantation in Alabama. And after emancipation, he spent most of his life as a laborer and a sharecropper. In his 80s, he was homeless and living on the streets of Montgomery, Alabama. And at 85, Traylor began drawing daily and painting on discarded pieces of cardboard. He created more than 1,000 images between 1939 and 1942. His simple, iconic silhouettes, figures of animals, and scenes from Southern life are charged with memory, allegory, and raw symbolic power that established him as one of the most important figures in outsider art. Though largely unrecognized during his lifetime, Traylor's work is now celebrated internationally for its originality, emotional clarity, and profound testimony to Black life in the American South. You know, it's very rare to have artwork by someone who was born a slave. And he lived all the way to the 1940s, which is kind of hard to wrap your mind around. But on deeper research into his life, many people think that he chose this very simple style, and they're kind of enigmatic or esoteric in a way it's hard to unravel them. He was probably referencing symbols or myths from hoodoo, which was a common spiritual tradition passed down through the African slaves. So there may be references to hoodoo spirituality in these that the white population could not read. Because not only is it impressive for someone like him to have lived as long as he did in that environment, living into your 80s after going through all that is impressive, but then to be putting things out publicly, painting on the street, could also draw unwanted attention. So I think he navigated all that, and now we have these very special artworks from the southern region of America. Another important artist is Martin Ramirez. Martin Ramirez was born in Mexico. He got in debt to buy his family a farm. He had a wife and several children, and he was a real cowboy. He rode a horse and had a pistol and had the whole farm life going. But he decided he wanted to come into America to help pay off his debt on the farm, like many Mexicans were doing at that time. While he was in America, the Mexican Revolution was happening in the state he was from, and he received a miscommunication that his wife actually fought in the revolution. And he decided he no longer wanted to return to Mexico. And moving into the Great Depression, America started aggressively deporting Mexicans to clear space for Americans to have jobs. They knew the Depression was coming, so they were aggressively deporting Mexicans. He did not want to go, so they took him to a court and they decided he was mentally ill and he was incarcerated in the mental institution at the time for the rest of his life. And he collected scraps of paper and glued them together and would make paints out of crayons or anything he could find. He would make these large, uh, beautiful drawings. He made thousands of him over the course of his life, and he eventually died in the mental institution. Uh, Several artists visited him in the institutions and bought up all his work, and he's known today. But his biography has been horribly distorted. You know, you'll read a lot of bad things about him, but really, him, along with other Mexicans at the time, were incarcerated in mental health institutions. So he's an important artist. He had a serious art practice, but did not engage in the art world or had any of these tensions. He just did it mainly to enrich his life during this hard period of time. My next artist is Henrietta Zephyr. She was born in 1920 near Toulouse, where her parents lived and worked. She was raised by her grandparents up to the age of 11. Before her studies took her away at the age of 21, she married Mr. Zephyr, an English teacher from Martinique. In 1943, Henrietta gave birth to a girl, but was left alone for the remainder of the war whilst her husband was mobilized. Afterwards, in 1947, the family settled in Antilles, but Henrietta felt isolated and lonely. Eventually, the marriage broke down and she returned to France in 1956 to live with her two children in Nice. In 1961, Henrietta felt a presence next to her. She heard a soft, melodious voice asking her to cooperate with it. Under the influence of the guiding force, whom she knew as Don Carlos, she began to draw. At first, it was nothing more than scribbles, but with effort, her work developed into drawings of flowing energy, imbued with positivity and vitality. It changed her life, and for the next half century, she would devote herself to this esoteric art practice. In the beginnings, there was long periods where she would write messages dedicated from her guide, and on a few occasions, she was able to let her mind be guided long distances to gain news from a distant person. However, her main practice was to help her guide in the process of aiding souls to reach higher spheres. This was a laborious occupation, and on one occasion, she describes seeing a gigantic masses like mountains gradually getting closer and closer until she was enabled to discern that they were made up of crowds of innumerable souls all needing her assistance. Jean Dubuffet discovered her and brought her into the Art Brut collective. But another, very interesting artist claiming to be guided by a voice to create this art. They're really beautiful artworks. She's very hard to find. You know, if you Google her, I doubt you'll find much. Another important, I call householder artist. And once again, none of these people were skilled, but they created extremely beautiful and important works of art for their time. Seraphine Louis, she's becoming very popular right now. I actually saw her in the MoMA. She was born in 1864. Self-taught painter. She was deeply religious. She started out taking care of a convent, and then later in her life became a housekeeper. And when she was in housekeeping, she'd go home and paint these incredible mystical plants. This one in the center, she calls the tree of life, but they're large, very vibrant, spontaneous, just full of life, high color intensity. But she did this completely privately. No intention of showing these to the world, no intention of selling. All of these artists were just doing this as a way with coping with reality, enriching their lives, deepening their understanding of themselves, what their life was for. And they got to such an individuated place that it's actually high art. It's a unique artistic voice, a unique artistic contribution. And today, you can find their work in museums around the world. She's in the MoMA and she was just a quiet housekeeper, you know? So I hope this is inspiring because the art market is extremely competitive. There's more artists than ever. It's lots of gatekeeping. You have to continuously gain more and more status, getting these brandings from schools and brandings from galleries and blah blah blah. And the art market is becoming more and more limited. The artist is losing more of their creative ability. Once you've created your brand, this performative identity, you get stuck making the same type of image. You can't really break out into new ways. So I think as the art world expands, I think ideas like this are important and also making spaces for public outreach, at least in America. There's a lack of culture just in the general population. Art appreciation is something very specialized now. It's something you have to be educated in, and I think that's terrible. The contemporary art market is horribly separated from just regular society. Whereas art of the past was for the Commonwealth, was to inspire people to raise their minds to something greater. And now it's very separate and elite. And I think the only way forward for the art market is to to where people right where they are, all over the world, just reaching out to their community and making art spaces and reintegrating art back into the population to enrich society without all the standards, without trying to get all the approval, without all the pressures and gatekeeping. Just people genuinely trying to enrich each other's lives. So with that said, we'll go into our period of meditation now, and then we'll go into our period of art making. Okay? So if you can, just like the image on the screen, that's a great meditation posture. We have our legs at a 90-degree angle. Our spine is erect and straight, but not rigid. We let our stomach relax. We let our chest relax and open. We let our palms drop on our thighs. Our chin is slightly tucked to keep our spine straight. And we just gaze softly down at the floor in front of us, not really focusing on anything in particular. And we can let our mind drop down around our diaphragm, and we can start sensing the rhythm of our breath. It's very soothing, very relaxing. And we can let all the worries of the day, all the things we have to do, just drop off. And we're just going to have this moment of connecting with ourselves and connecting with whatever's going on. And as thoughts arise, we just label them thinking, Just a quick note, and we return back to our breath. Each inhale, our mind is relaxing. Each exhale, our body is relaxing. Relaxing deeper and deeper while maintaining a bright, brilliant awareness. Now slowly bring this mindset into your art making, this calm clarity. Slowly transition and just begin working. Don't worry about skill. The beauty of all those artists is they connected to who they were right then and there. There wasn't some ideal far off in the future that they were trying to achieve. They just worked with the skills they had, with the life experiences they had, exactly who they were right then and there at that moment. Being exactly who they are was their beauty. That's what people were really connecting with when we look at these artists. They didn't have to be perfect people. So just work spontaneously and openly with exactly what you are right now. Let's do a few more minutes and then we'll do the group. All right, guys, Let's wrap it up and come back for the group. All right. Oh, so how did it go? You got anything, Till?
Yeah, sure. Kind of just kind of made something like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It looks different from what you usually do.
Yeah. It's something with silver, like silver sort of not paint, pen, silver pen.
Paint pen. Okay.
Yeah, and on on good paper.
Is
So
that right? Nice.
and try to do um, something that fits well with what I'm doing in it's part of what just comes to mind, you know.
Great. What about you, Pam?
A few weeks ago, I bought a set of watercolors
Yeah.
and a set of pastels, and I have not broken into them. I haven't. I use the paper I bought, and I made this drawing, and I put in the highlights just now. The highlights I put in. I don't
Nice.
know if you can see them. But I haven't been using the watercolors or the pastels. And I don't know how to begin. I don't know how to just dive in. I don't know anything.
Just do it. That's it. Just
So
start.
I'm ready to take the plunge.
Great. Great. Yeah.
Plunge.
Yeah. Just start. Don't overthink it. Yeah. And it's nice to just have like a project that's like no stakes, just plan on it being bad. You just want to play with the new stuff, right? So no stakes. It doesn't have to be something you show anyone. You just play around.
Yeah.
It's usually what I do when I'm teaching people and they're switching into painting. As I go, we're just gonna make a painting, not an academic painting. Just make a bad painting, and then we'll talk next week. And that way they get used to the materials, they get used to the brushes and the oils, and it's not some big important project they're gonna freak out about.
I also bought a book of Rodin's drawings and watercolors. And I love his use of watercolor. And the thing that happened, the book came, I bought it on eBay. It
Hmm.
arrived with $100 bill inside of it.
Really?
Crisp, brand new $100 bill. Someone must have used it as a bookmarker or something.
Well, that's lucky. There you go. Um, what do you guys think about the topic today or any of the artists that showed or what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that you always have to sort of you need time to prepare, and if you are if you have a lot of constraints, then it's much more difficult to do something and to be truly creative, and there it takes away some of the pressure. I think
Yeah.
maybe as an artist, you don't want to mass produce. You want to do something that has a cultural uh, impact, value, and that sometimes is juxtaposed to whatever happens in the market. Yeah. So there's this kind of discrepancy between what the market expects and and what you can provide, and maybe
Yeah, what do you want to say, Pam?
I sometimes think of us people as organisms that are leaving fossils behind. Our artwork are our fossils,
Hmm.
our impressions and left in the world of who we are.
Yeah.
mm, mhm.
Yeah, I think sometimes we get hung up on people's personalities, you know? We get nitpicky, but with an artist they get to show you their vision, right? Yeah, so the vision, right? Someone someone can have a personality you don't like, but they may have a beautiful vision of the world or a philosophy or some view that contributes a lot to your life, right? You don't have to be this perfect person. And I think in art, no one really expects that from artists. Artists are usually pretty wild people, you know? Caravaggio was a gangster, killed a man in a sword fight, but he contributed a lot. Um, this vision, this new way of seeing things. Um, most artists weren't great people if you look at them.
They were or they
Weren't.
weren't.
Yeah.
I like the woman artist you showed, the one whose the voice spoke to her.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of leading up to the turn of the century in New York, actually, there were these girls who said they heard knockings on the walls, and they would knock back, and they made this kind of spirit communication. It became popular in New York, and eventually seances came out of this. So seances and the whole spiritism movement began in New York, and it spread to Europe, and it really took off in Europe. And lots of women were in it. There was lots of medium artists. Hilma af Klint is the most famous one. There's Emma Coots, Georgina Houghton, but there's many, and men too. Um, but it's becoming very popular now to look into these women. But the Spiritism, also at that time, 1850s onward, was the beginning of Theosophy. Madame Blavatsky making this kind of fusion of Eastern philosophy and Western. She was kind of the one that brought all the Indian and Buddhist ideas and made them popular, at least. Um, so they were writing books. There's one book called Thought Forms, which has these beautiful abstract paintings in it, and it's thought that that book really led to the abstract painting movement. These are little things that are kind of hidden and people don't know about, but mediumistic art, seances, theosophy led to abstract painting, definitely, you know. Um, I think Georgina Houghton was doing abstract art in the 1850s. Um, but I think people got embarrassed about that in the later 1900s and kind of just wrote it off. But also because of that, that's why they couldn't engage in the art market. Um, some of it because they're women, some of it because of they're doing this very alternative things, very alternative lifestyles that weren't acceptable at the time. Um, and so they wanted to do art, they did it anyways, you know?
Sometimes you have sort of uh, it's like intermediaries between crafts and the arts. So, and like Albrecht Dürer, for example.
Hmm.
Yeah, because he combined a lot of different elements in his art. Um, he was a metalsmith, but he also was an artist. So just
Well, I don't think, yeah, I picked these people because people put a lot of pressure on themselves to be skilled, and it takes years and years, and people's lives are too complicated to achieve really high craftsmanship now, because you got to work all these jobs and raise kids and stuff. That's why I picked these, but I think also craft has gotten a bad rap because I've done craft and it takes you very high. Even without thinking about the art, just being that in touch with the materials and working them and in touch with a lot of these are traditions passed down for years and years, will naturally take you to art. I think it's just that intensity and sincerity of the person just going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper eventually leads to art, with craft or without craft. Yeah. But I'm also thinking about the art world today where, there's all these universities with art departments just pumping out art students. There's never been a time like this, with so many artists. And where are they going to go? And what are they going to do? The art market's very small. Most of the economy of the art market is made up by five galleries. And most of the buyers of those five galleries are 20 people each in each gallery, make up the majority of global sales. So it's a very small market. I think in Europe, the market's a lot friendlier. A lot of my friends that are painters here are very meticulous, high craftsmanship. They don't do well in America because they're too slow. America wants you to produce 100 paintings a year. Doesn't just crank it out. But in Europe, you can make 10 paintings a year and go sell and people will appreciate it and work with you. But the New York art market is the biggest in the world and is very intense and competitive. And slow painters get bumped out. I see them downsizing to smaller paintings, people doing stuff this big to keep up with production, but I don't know. So I think something new has to happen. There's new I've had these websites, they're kind of like art Facebooks, kind of, where artists make a profile and curators make a profile and it just kind of takes out the middlemen. I've seen those popping up in the city and in Europe, um,
mm,
to kind of remove the gatekeeping, which I think is a good start to expanding the art world outside of the intense markets. But I don't think it has to be economic. If you really love art, you can just do it at your home and share it in your community just to enrich your community. I think that's totally reasonable. Or just to enrich yourself and you teach your friends or something. Just
but
sharing in this way.
yeah, just wanted to you talked about Europe,
Hmm.
and I think that there's a certain expectation to have cultural breadth in the artwork that comes out, yeah, that speaks to the audience.
Hmm.
And there's not the expectation actually to create something um, just for the market. I think
Mm.
it's more like a long-term investment, I think, sometimes.
Well, that's refreshing.
So
I
hence,
also like in Germany they have the Kunstverein, which I
yes.
think is great. I love that. And also in Dusseldorf, there was places to exhibit at every level. The K21 was exhibiting people who hadn't even finished their BFA yet. So the art was very much a part of the normal daily life, the culture.
Yeah, yeah. And as already said, it's connected to the crafts.
Hmm.
There's not this, especially you just mentioned Central Europe. Um, there is sort of a tendency to see to one there's not really the difference between the crafts and the arts in the same way that you might find it somewhere else, maybe. Yeah, it's there's more fluidity. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that allows also to go into interior design, maybe, to, which is good. Yeah, I mean, it's a much larger market as well,
Yeah, the European art
and it's
schools are different in
subsidized as
that
well.
way. Huh?
It's subsidized as well.
Oh,
What
it's
you just
subsidized.
mentioned.
That's right. Ireland just put out
So,
their big artist subsidized. Yeah, if you're an artist in Ireland, you get a UBI monthly now. In Finland, they do that too for everybody. God, I wish they did that here. In the 80s here, they gave you cheap housing if you're an artist to keep culture in the city. A lot of my professors live in like downtown Manhattan and paid $200 a month, which is unbelievable.
so maybe there's not really a specific trend. Yeah, it's just sometimes it's more like a long-term thing, but I don't think that one can just say like it's not short term, but also not long term either. That's always case by case.
Yeah, I mean, all these artists we know because someone made money off of them. That's really what art history comes down to. But there's many, many artists that are completely forgotten, you know, who are probably great, but just no one made money off of them. All these outsider artists, someone discovers them, buys up all their work, and then sells it on a secondary market, and the artist doesn't make anything, you know? Yeah, Pam?
I recently heard that women are outspending men on art right now by a lot. Like they're starting to be the ones that are the more the sex that's more investing more currently, more money.
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot more women in art now too, at the top. It's a lot of my favorite painters are women painters. There's a lot of big women artists now. Yeah, women may take over the art market.
But this whole idea of it being controlled by men is really shifting, I think, you know?
Yeah, I think so. I think this
Mm.
will be the last one till January. And I'm trying to build a group. That's why I'm making the reels. I'm attracting people to my page, and I'm gonna start marketing through my page. And me and Reem are building a public space in Fishkill. But I'm planning this next year to really start growing it. So I'm gonna try to push, you know, you invited Till here, and Till's like the main guy now. Till's at every meeting. So I think if we just keep reaching out and bringing in, we can build a really beautiful art community. And I'm shooting a commercial over this next month with the guy that took photos of me. So I'll be explaining more, but I'm trying to build something really close to the Renaissance where you can get technical training, you can get creative training, you can get spiritual training, all it's a holistic art instead of everything broken up and specialized. Everything's being brought back together. And that's my kind of way of thinking about the future of how art's going to be with everything that's going on and the way the art market is and all these new art students and
Also, I love your walks
oh
on
yeah.
Instagram. They really inspire me a lot. I love what you say. You say the truth. It feels good.
Thank you. Yeah, if there's anything that I say that you really like, tell me, because these are for people. you know. So I want to help them. I got some new things. I'm going to do some art history ones too. I'm going to put some clips of these kind of obscure artists or obscure artworks that people probably wouldn't know. So I
I
got
mean,
some fun stuff. Yeah.
what I like about what you do is you go into depth, yeah. Like you really look into things in depth, yeah. And I think that resonates with local market here. So
Uh,
generally, yeah, just in terms of the vibe, yeah, the,
yeah.
and sort of the emotional frequency. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to criticize anybody's way of doing art. I just want to say something that is insightful and empowering to keep people making whatever they're doing. I think Instagram kind of thrives off of fear and loud critical statements, you know. So I want to spam it with something that's wholesome, maybe refreshing in between all the crap. I think that's it, guys. Thanks for showing up today. I know it's holiday weekend, everybody's gone. And thank you for coming out to all the meetings, making this a reality. Our group is growing, our podcast is growing. I looked at the stats and we got more subscribers, no idea who they are, but people are listening and they're hearing what you guys are saying too, and it's interesting. So, thanks for making this possible. And I guess I'll see you soon, Pam. I'll probably see you
Okay.
this next week. But happy holidays, guys.